Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are back on the dev server and we're having a look at another new vehicle that is coming into the game. This is a new AA system that is coming in for Japan, something that is sorely needed for their tech tree since the higher echelons, they just don't have anything that's as good. It is the Type 03 and you will find it in the tech tree after the Tan-SAM Kai, which was the most recent multi-vehicle SAM system that they had added to the game. The Type 03 is a massive improvement over it in terms of the ability of its missiles, not so much in terms of kind of the radar system. It is a slight difference in different ways, but the major thing is the missiles, and that was the problem that the Tan-SAM Kai had. The Type 03 TADS has access to the search radar antenna, which has a range of 50 kilometers and also has a pretty decent search zone. The major thing that's cool about this radar, though, is it can target up to 100 things at once. So no matter what is going on in the air, you will be able to see what is going on. And it's just kind of wild how this can track so many objects at the same time as it goes around. The vehicle also has a 420 horsepower engine, which is quite meaty for a vehicle like this, and a pretty impressive transmission, meaning it can motor around at even 100 kilometers an hour, similar to what the IRIS used to be able to do, which is quite nice. It also has a huge power system, so even if you're not able to hit this vehicle very well, as long as you can see the sliver here or you can see the radar, you can knock it out of action pretty quickly while that's going on. And it also has a 3-man crew, driver, gunner, and also commander to be able to move everything forward. So looking at the other part of the multi-vehicle system, we have the TEL part. This is the missile launcher. You are able to actually fire off, or you are able to have 2 of these trucks alongside the radar system, and they're very similar. You know, you have 371 horsepower, 23 tons, and once again a crew of 3. But the difference is that you have this big FCS system here instead of the radar system. Then also the launcher, which has access to 6 missiles in tow, which I think is pretty cool. Means that you can fire up to 12 of these things before you have to reload, which is huge compared to some other vehicles that have a lot less. So looking at the Type 03, you have access to also a different missile compared to the Tan-SAM. The cool thing about the Tan-SAM Kai is you can either bring, active radar homing missiles, or you can bring IR missiles. So you have kind of a difference in terms of what's there. The major problem with them, though, is they're way too short range to be able to effectively attack a lot of the vehicles that you face. So enter the Type 03 missile. This one has a range of 80 kilometers. It also has access to a lot of TNT equivalent compared to some of the other missiles. It's about 1.5 times the AMRAAM, and it has a very small trigger radius, but also is very maneuverable with a maximum overload of 36 Gs. So this is a huge improvement over what Japan had previously and will give them a lot better of a situation at the top tiers of the game, which is required because, you want to be able to defend yourself, and this is something that can now be done with this. Where before, especially with the Tan-SAM, you needed vehicles to get closer to you in order to deal with them. And these vehicles, which are just the Type 81C, by the way, are really good at dealing at close range. But if you're not at close range, there's really not a ton you can do. And that is a huge problem. So it's just a massive upgrade, and you can see it has all the camouflages here, which are really nice. And it means that you can, set up around the battlefield really well. And I'm guessing because these are active radar homing missiles, you won't be able to kind of exist without the radar system, unlike the way that the previous ones work for them. So looking at the missiles themselves, you can see one of the things that's very different compared to some of the other missile systems is they have to go incredibly high before they actually start locking onto the target. And I don't really know why that is. Maybe it's just something to do with the way that it's going to work in this. But if you're trying to engage stuff which is a bit closer in terms of it, you can see it has to really, really focus up and then go after it after. So it's not going to be as easy to use just because if there's anything close by, you're not going to be able to kind of, target it. And another thing is it's going to be really obvious where the launcher is because of this smoke that it leaves behind for an absolute age. So that is something that you have to take into account too with a vehicle like this. So it's looking really nice. The missiles themselves, this is a closer target. You can see the MiG-15 is very close. It's obviously going to miss that. But against other ones which are a little bit further away or, set up in a different way, you can just hammer them with these types of things. And it's just a huge upgrade. It's just lovely to see that they are adding in another vehicle like this for Japan. And also, the radar has a really nice animation, closing and opening too. So, overall, just very positive. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.